it is your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today. Much love going out to all of the beautiful, empowered harmonizers. We are zooming in and focusing in a little bit more in depth on a great viewer question that is to discuss how to handle and understand the narcissistic rage, their moodiness, their all over the place, sort of that unpredictability that you might see from time to time if you are in close proximity or in a relationship with a narcissist. You know, a narcissist, generally, they have a pathological sense of self-importance and coupled with a lack of empathy, which oftentimes creates sort of an entitlement mindset and attitude for them, where they sort of feel that they only need or should be associated with, certain high-level people. Things should always, go a specific way. There's an entitlement going on. And when things don't match up, this is a challenge to the narcissist. It does not satisfy their egoic needs. In other words, it's not an energetic match. It's not to their level. It's not good enough. And they oftentimes feel like a sense of, I would say, ego death, or it's taken very literally or seriously, where they feel maybe their identity is challenged, their I am is challenged because of this. They feel, like everything is going to fall apart. So their mind will tend to jump to places and catastrophize things. And this can be a lot of up and down emotional seesawness for those around them. And oftentimes it's very difficult to get used to. I mean, it might be kind of fun, funny, provide an excitement, the emotional roller coaster, but then it can become very disabling or difficult for others, because oftentimes they feel that they are inadequate or resourceless to make things better or to help you. So it's kind of like the old untouchable, situation, where there's a problem, but it cannot be solved because there's a narcissistic injury to the ego there, and then they feel that they should only be surrounded by other high net worth or high influence individuals. In other words, because I am this, I deserve that, or because I'm a C-level executive, I only want to talk to another C-level executive. Get me this right away, without really considering the fact that there might be a process, the person might not be available, this might take some time, can we get back to you? It's the old narcissistic rage that you will be up against. And a lot of people oftentimes want to pacify this. It makes others uncomfortable to see this sort of emotional explosiveness in front of them, even though to the narcissist it might be harmless, when they're having their freakouts. But for some people, it can become, it can be very taxing and take a lot of energy to understand, comprehend, and deal with or live with. So you have to realize, that you then need to resensitize yourself. I would say, realize that your senses need to be called back into order. And I talk about this in a book that I'm working on, and so that you can feel okay and intact and not sort of injured when you see this, because a lot of people end up feeling responsible, accountable, that they are supposed to be responsible for, appeasing or pacifying or smoothing things out, and then it won't smooth out because the narcissist is going through that narcissistic injury and it just has to play itself out. You have to understand really what you're dealing with. It's a different situation, and this is just how this person might be, how they're wired. So to try to change them, or to say certain comments like that are then reviewed as challenging to the narcissist, there is even going to trigger it even more and sort of put gas and fan the flames even more. So you have to realize that they oftentimes have different areas who the narcissist sort of needs to anchor themselves with. They oftentimes have these very high dreams, aspirations, and it can be threatening to them, like an ego death, if things aren't going that way. So they might sort of feel that they're losing grip, losing footing, they're not on track, they're no longer going to make it. Their mind tends to go to all these places. So it's just but you have to realize that not all people think like that. And so I remember many years ago. It might have even been like 10 or 15 years ago, watching a gentleman, Jim True, who was with Steppenwolf Theater, and there was a performance there, and I think there was another musician, David Clement, Jim True, who I know, and was friends with, I think I met maybe like 20 or 30 years ago. He's now in The Wire. He's the detective there. I think that's an HBO channel. I don't have the HBO channel, but his name is Jim True, and he is with the Steppenwolf Theater, which is a theater based out of Chicago, Illinois, and they have big banners, and I would be driving by and see his face up there, and oh my God, there's Jim True. That's so cool. He made it, And I think he goes by Jim True Frost right now, because he actually took his wife's, I think, her last name and hyphenated. It's so cool. He's such a super cool guy. And he started that one event where he sort of just came out before the performance, and he said, I just want to call on the source, or call on the source of my inspiration. It was like his forever moment, like tapping into what he called, I think, in that first, the forever. And I thought that was pretty cool, because he found a way to sort of anchor and live in this higher dimension and sort of be insulated by it. So, and that was very cool. It was very humbling to see this. And, I thought that was cool. So he was drawing on inspiration and sort of communicated that right in the beginning. And I'm not suggesting that people need to do that, or that can, help you. But it is important for you to, it maybe can help you to get perspective that oftentimes the narcissists, they're coming from a specific place that they are coming from that makes them special, that makes them unique, that sort of sets them apart from the crowd, literally and figuratively, especially in their mind. So they oftentimes feel in a class by themselves, and they need to keep that going. I mean, it becomes a real drive for them. So, the narcissist requires that. That's just how their patterns work. So you have to see it for what it is. And it's, and so the narcissist, also, if you're not, acquiescing to them, which means to give in to their needs, giving to their demands, and then the other people have to violate their own boundaries and standards oftentimes to do this. So others have to pay the price emotionally, as well as, time-wise, physically, to hear them out. But realize you're going to get this, and then oftentimes you might even get the blaming, where, all of a sudden, because they're not getting their way, because you pulled the lollipop out of their mouth, wah! You pull the pacifier out. I'm no longer giving this. I can't do this. You're challenging them. You're not calling them out, but you're asking for responsibility and and credibility, and you're trying to have a kumbaya conversation with them, toe to toe. Hey, we got to square this out here, guys. So oftentimes, even though that might be normal, natural, practical, it would actually be the solution, help you to get things off of your chest. But oftentimes the narcissist is then taken aback. Oh boy, and then they are very offended. I can't believe that, this, and then, they're just having an emotional vomitose moment, where they're then sort of, it might just be this very one-directional sort of emotional fire hose at the codependent, or the person who's supportive, and the person's, then feeling that they have, unfairly received a lot of negativity or hostility that's coming off of people. This might oftentimes be very raw or heated or very loud, for the situation, or, it might be perceived as threatening or intimidating. So people, sort of take different, experiences of that and sort of feel a specific way, which might not be the intent of the narcissist, but it would naturally, be understood that if this happened, that you would feel that either I would be responsible for helping you, fixing you, or responsible for putting your ego back together. So people end up, creating a whole big set of job for them and enable this behavior. But so, that has to, they need to have that space to sort of anchor in their ego. So to understand them is just to understand, oftentimes what disrupts them or what challenges them, even something normal or natural, like we have to change this, I can't do this anymore, you know, what? You know, they might be very taken aback. You might get what you might call as pushback, resistance, or, you know, non-compliance, non-cooperation from them. Even though you've been very cooperative, compliant, there for them 24/7, supportive all the way till the cows come home. You know, this is what happens and how it is felt and interpreted and received by people. So you have to understand a little bit of where this moodiness is. And oftentimes the narcissist will, you know, will fan the flames of this moodiness, because to them this is what makes them feel alive, real, you know, on the right track, doing the right thing, being their best. So for them, even if it gets ugly, it's, you know, it's beautiful. I mean, it's just part of their whole cycle, you know. So you have to give that to them. It doesn't mean you have to be a victim of them, you know, a victim of this. If you are, then you need to step out of the boxing ring. You need to give them some space. Hold your own space while you're up against them. Cool, calm, collected. Do not be an energetic match to the hurt ego of the narcissist. Because if you do, and it gets all in here or too much in here, it's over with. You know, they've got you. They've got, and it's a tug of war. You know, and your hands are, you're going to get a lot of rope burn, man, and you might get pulled through some mud or some gunk or some seaweed or whatever. You know, some disgusting places where you don't want to get dragged through this, and then you're going to resent, you know, and be sorry that it got that way. So you need to sort of back it up, hold your space. You can handle what you're up against, but hold your space and don't become an energetic match to that egoic sort of blow up, because then it's like you're trying to rescue a drowning person that will then drag you down with them, and you will have trouble getting your own composure back. You'll have trouble, you know, you'll then be ruminating about it and thinking, you know, why did this happen? And it might be then, you know, holding a judge and harboring then anxiety or resentment, which is never good to keep bottled up for too long. Anyway, this can be a skill that is learned. You know, obviously you don't want to be constantly coping, you know, because coping, if you're, you know, you get a lot of energy that's caught up in coping, and for short periods of time, okay, but if your lifestyle is becoming nothing more than a coping mechanism, you know, because of them, you know, you're always trying to get away or please them so that the narcissistic blow up doesn't happen anymore, and you want to support their dreams. So, you know, all this starts going down the chute. You know, you have to accept the emotional landscape with what is in there, with all the details, all the bright, shiny, all the dark and mysterious. You know, oftentimes it's not greener on the other side of the hill or whatever they said. You know, sometimes it's dark in that forest. You know, if you walk by a forest preserve, you know, you can have some very bright areas, but you can also have a walkway that right over there it's pitch black, because all the trees, you know, have grown and have basically created a complete canopy where no other light can penetrate. So, you know, sometimes this is just how things are going to be, and you have to let them be in those dark moments. You know, they might need to go into the woods. They might need to go into hiding. You know, they might need to sort of, you know, go and, you know, suck their emotional thumb and get their ego wounds back together. This is just how they are. You know, they have a vision, which oftentimes you have to allow them, even though you might be close with them, you might not be able to support them and be okay, you know, feeling unwounded if you take on too much responsibility for them. And so really with resensitizing yourself, you have to realize that, yeah, the moodiness can be a lot to manage. You know, you have to be able to juggle it and realize, hey, where is this undertow going? Am I going to get dragged down, or am I going to ride, or I'm going to ride the right part of the wave? It's kind of like surfing. I think I've never surfed, but I think, with the surfers, they're going to kind of go in that undertow of the wave. You want to get in the wave and let it, versus like undertow, so you might have to sort of try to get into, stay in flow with them and stay in an energetic, I'm here for you, but I can't, I can't ride those waves for you. You're going to have to surf this yourself. I can't surf this for you. And it can be a lot. I think for also, not to end this or wrap this up on sort of a serious note, but for a lot of individuals who are narcissistic, they can oftentimes get very moody, and they can oftentimes feel like they can't survive, they can't handle it, or it calls into question if they can even go on anymore. So you might have a lot of these, I can't go on anymore, this is too painful. So I think, especially I found it very interesting that when you really look at a lot of affluent people, and the high rate of those people taking their own lives is very significant, from what I've noticed. It's been very, 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 very close to me, this situation. And so it can create a lot of people to task, where then if they can't appease this, they feel like a failure. If they can't help or reach out, or there then becomes a sort of a high maintenance aspect to the moodiness, where people will start to wonder, are you okay? Do we have to come and be there? Can you rescue you? So you got a lot of people who have then gone through a lot of sort of ego rescuing for these people. When things get severe, they might say, threats. I'm gonna do this in the garage. I'm gonna, it can be very, very serious. The moodiness. So realize that sometimes their solution is not a solution. They just want to, they might have some very sort of black and white thinking, meaning, well, I'm just gonna quit, or I'm just never gonna do this again. Or, and then they might drink themselves silly, or just other really extreme behaviors that cause a lot of people to have to go and, take care of them. Emotionally, they're worried, about them. And so it keeps a lot of people on a trauma bond, and they can't really sort of then go out and have their own life, if you will, because there's this going on the back burner, the front burner, the side burner, any burner. It can, it can burn up a lot of concern in a lot of other people, and get them very sort of frazzled, and feeling that they can't reach you. We're not on the same page with this. So it can create a lot of problems for the other people in their life as well. It just creates a lot of concern, and people then have to, be there to do the rescue, the old knight in shining armor to support them, but oftentimes then they don't get the same in return. So that is where things become imbalanced. So, know to what degree this can be a real issue, and they might need, help managing this. If it gets real severe and is disrupting of relationships or lifestyle, then you might, they might need professional help. They might, there might need a gentle antidepressant or some other to get a balance there. Things might be imbalanced. But just realize that, this is how they are. And oftentimes, this cannot be changed. It cannot be wrangled with. It needs to be sort of accepted and put into perspective. But if you're in, you might have to communicate with the narcissist on their terms, so they can feel your presence as a buffer if needed, which is usually what they'll say they need. People to sort of insulate them, I think, is the way it goes. Sort of an insulatory factor. that is part of maintaining or, cohabitating with a relationship with these people, if it's in your family, your community, your workplace, what have you. So be able to, hold your own space, realize that oftentimes that, they're going to have to manage that on their own. But if it causes you for concern, just communicate your feelings. This concerns me, it makes me worried that this is, it's too extreme. If it's too extreme, then, it is what it is. So you have to be able to understand the degree and severity and the degree to which there is suffering in the narcissist that needs to be addressed, because oftentimes they're not going to want to communicate about it because they have to be, perceived as perfect, or if, someone sees me as being a little off, this could ruin my reputation. So they have these wide sweeping, just sort of assumptions or allegations or concerns. Fear, egoic fear, even though it might not ever be the case, but it's false evidence appearing real, but it's very real to the person. So you don't have to adapt by being a fake, a phony. Realize that that is theirs, and realize what is yours. And then how do you interface amicably so that you have boundaries that are fairly clear and not, all over the place. Sometimes it's here, it's there. I mean, that can create a lot of confusion, a lot of really sort of engineered chaos, which is not fair to people. They oftentimes feel that they, you're not on the same page or connected. And needs to be addressed, in a way that is supportive of this individual. They're the number one. I mean, it just has to be this way. And you can't be ashamed or shy to be second fiddle to them. Oftentimes, that is what they are. Wow. That is what they are needing to be reaffirmed. Everything else is second fiddle. This is the main thing. So you need to reaffirm their number one status, so that can also help with the mood lability and handling it. So I know that we could go on and talk about this a lot more. So if you guys have other questions or comments, please feel free to just type them down below, and we'll love to hear your stories. And we'll discuss more tools and things of this nature of the causes create this effect in future videos. So thank you so much. This is your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today. And I hope that these videos do help. Please share, please subscribe, and for goodness sake, please donate for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support. Raise up your vibration, raise up your I am. I am magnificent. Everything is okay. The universe is magnificent. I love my future. Fall in love with your future and hold on to the best parts of your past.